What's happening, people? Welcome to another episode of Natty News Daily, the first one of 2022. It's kind of weird to say that it's a new year and that we're going on basically year two of doing this whole Natty News Daily thing. So that's pretty nifty. But anyways, we are hopefully expecting Dan to join us here shortly. But anyways, we've got our first guest of the new year, Mr. Draft Bra himself, Brian Nguyen. How are you, my man?
Oh, good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, very excited. I can attest that, I've known you through social media for quite some time now, but, we haven't really formally spoke. So I'm excited to just kind of pick your brain a little bit, chat about bodybuilding. Obviously, you're coming off of your 2021 season. So we'll discuss that a little bit, your adventure to INBF Worlds and all that good stuff. But, my man, before we get too far into it, for those that don't know who you are, give it kind of a brief summary of what you're all about.
All right. So my name is Brian, as Leroy just introduced. I have been lifting for 8 years, a little bit over 8 years now, and competing in natural bodybuilding since 2016. So it's been about a good 5-6 years now.
Yep.
And like you said, I just wrapped up my second season where I did INBF Battle for Mayhem and wrapped it up with INBF Worlds.
Sweet. So let's go briefly way back. What got you into bodybuilding way back in 2016?
So I had been lifting since 2013, and my friend kind of just brought me to the gym. It's the classic story. You're in high school, your friends bring you to the gym, you just want to get, And then it's funny though, because from 2013, I already knew I wanted to compete. Like that idea was already implanted in the back of my mind.
Yep.
So I was already training for bodybuilding, but I think it was 2015 where I had a close friend of mine. He competed in natural bodybuilding. That's how I learned about the WNBF, the INBF, and then that kind of got me. That kind of gave me that final push to make a plan to prep in 2016 for the first time as a teen competitor.
Yep. Yep. And then
how'd that prep go for you?
That prep, it actually wasn't that bad. 24 weeks long, so pretty standard. I gotta say though, that prep was probably my harder prep compared with this last one. Obviously, when you're 3 years into lifting and you're not some genetic freak, I didn't have that much muscle, so it got really difficult towards the end.
Yeah.
I feel like I probably lost a little bit of muscle in the process. But
Did
overall,
you follow like the typical because back then I guess like a lot of the science and methods that we use now maybe weren't as popular. So what did your prep look like at the time? Like was it like a meal plan? Do you do like fasted cardio, like all that old school stuff, or what was
no, actually when comparing it with like all the evidence-based approaches from today, I would say it was pretty well informed. It was I tracked macros. We kept the pace pretty slow the whole time for the 24 weeks. It never got like crazy low. I think the lowest that prep I got was like 2,000 calories. And there were about 5 sessions of cardio a week, which is kind of excessive in my opinion, but it was all low intensity. There was no fasted cardio. I did do HIIT, which I'm not a fan of.
Yeah.
And I probably won't do ever again. But
yeah, I've been there. I've done the HIIT stuff too, and it takes its toll.
Yeah, I remember there was a time when everyone's saying like, "Oh, HIIT, it's gonna spare the most muscle." Like all the talk.
Yeah.
People hype one thing, and then that's what you just do.
No, for sure. So then you took a good chunk of time off. Then, if this was only your second season, so what kind of prompted that decision? Because speaking for myself, I started competing the tail end of 2015, so right around when you would have started, but I was like active competing for like 3 or 4 years straight basically. So what was your, I guess, determining factor to take the extended time off? Because that's impressive to see someone take that much time off, especially so early in their training career, when I find sometimes you get so ambitious right out of the gate that it's like show.
Yeah, I think what I found really cool about that tail end of that prep was getting that lean, it highlights your strengths, but it also kind of amplified your weaknesses.
Yeah.
When I was stage lean, I saw how weak my chest was. I saw how weak my back was. There was nothing hiding that.
Right.
And then I told myself I was never going to get back on stage that small again.
No, that's good.
Obviously, mission accomplished, but
yeah,
that's always the coming off of the stage every single season.
Yeah, I feel like
incredible improvements from your last season.
Yeah,
like crazy. How much muscle did you put on?
On paper, not a lot.
Really?
Stage weight,
you sure about that?
2016 was probably it was only like mid 130s in 2016.
What how much leaner did you get though?
It wasn't as lean as now.
That's what I mean though.
Yeah.
Like I'm not talking in terms of stage weight. Like stage weight, even if it's the same, like like my stage weight wasn't that much different than maybe if it was maybe 4 or 5 pounds heavier, but the look was a lot different though. So
yeah, 100%.
I bet you put on at least 10 pounds of muscle.
Yeah, it was 10 pounds of stage weight, but most likely more than 10 pounds of muscle at that time, because I did get leaner this time than I did in 2016.
So say 12 or 15 almost.
Yeah, probably in that range. Yeah.
Sweet.
See, that speaks to like the time frames with bodybuilding and there's always going to be those genetic outliers, but I would say for the most, like we're all probably pretty average bodybuilders, like as far as skill sets and like muscle building goes. And it's like, you need that time away. That was the biggest thing I learned like the last 2 to 3 years. Like Cliff said from the get-go, he's like once I started to get leaner, he's like, every time I would check in, he's like, you've put on more than we thought. You put on more than we thought. But he was always like, you were probably burning so much muscle through your preps and just prepping so often that your body was itching to put on muscle in a sense, but you almost weren't letting it. And if you're speaking to 15 pounds of like quality tissue, like that's no joke. Like 15 pounds is a lot. Like people who are outside of maybe natural bodybuilding, just observe bodybuilding as a whole, they see these guys that are 260 pounds on stage putting on 20 pounds a year. Like we're not those guys. We don't have what they have. But for someone to put on 15 pounds of muscle over like a 4 or 5 year period, like that's legit.
Yeah, like I talked to some people and they underestimate how much 1 pound is. I'm like, think about a whole pound of just lean meat.
Yeah.
No fat, and then just spread that throughout the body. Yeah.
Yeah, like even like a couple pounds of like good quality muscle where it counts. Like you put on like half a pound across your lateral delts, a little bit, like you said, on your chest, a little bit on your lats. Like you disperse that weight. Like it is such a different look. And that muscle maturity, even from then to now, and you're still a kid in the sport, but you figure, 4 or 5 years of just consistency and dedication, like the look is, like Dan said, it's night and day different, right?
Yeah, and I'm really optimistic about this next season, just because from 2016 to 2020, I probably didn't train the smartest on paper.
Touch on that a little bit before you go away from that, because like obviously we follow you, we know your training, right? Your sumo deadlifts and that kind of stuff, which you've touched on other podcasts. But I guess quickly discuss what you mean by that. Maybe what was lacking, what didn't you do?
A lot of my training, it was very powerlifting based. I would do the big compound first, obviously.
Yep.
I still do that now. The only thing is I prioritize it a little bit less than I used to.
Sure.
And then, like I said, it wasn't as smart. And what I mean about that is most of my training sessions, I went in without a clear plan. Like a lot of my training was intuitive back then. I would maybe note it down on my notes app, but it wasn't structured in a way that was predictable from week to week or month to month.
Were you structuring your big lifts mostly, and then just doing accessories? Is that kind of how you?
Yeah. I just tacked it on at the end, and obviously, those big 3 lifts, they would induce a lot of fatigue, and then it would affect how I train after. Yeah. Like a lot of my leg extensions, I just threw on at the end of a squat session, and it was just like going through the motions. I wasn't putting as much focus as I am into them now.
Yeah. Yeah. But you enjoyed it, right? And that's something
I enjoyed it.
I think that people need to, we kind of were going on about this before we come on live here, but like, people rag on you for your sumo deadlifts. And I remember hearing you say in your other podcast, your response is, I just love doing it. I'm just going to do it because I love doing it. And I think there's a certain element of training that people need to find that fine line of like, it's going to get you progress, but if you don't like it, then you're not going to make good progress anyways. So if you're going to do something that you really love, that you can go in the gym, you can get excited about, you can get passionate about, maybe it's quote unquote suboptimal, but like if you do that for 4 or 5 years, like you just did, you're putting on 15 pounds of muscle. Like who is anybody to say like, Brian, you shouldn't have done that?
Yeah,
Well,
I always argue, like, how am I not putting on muscle if I was doing 405 for a set of 10 and then now I'm doing 600 for a set of 10? Like, there's got to be some muscle there.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, that's not all neurological for sure.
It's not gonna hurt.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, zooming in so much at one small factor of your training, right? Like you're not just deadlifting, you're balancing everything out, and your control over all those accessories, like you said, it's certainly improved. If anyone watches you train now, it's like top quality. You know, there's intent with every single one of your movements, and it's very obvious why you grew as much as you did.
Yeah, I've been what I've been doing a lot better this off season is just recording all of my bodybuilding movements, even the ones that I don't post. I'll record them. I'll watch back the footage, see how execution was, and then just find room for improvement in the future.
Touch on your music choice while training.
I was literally just about to say that. Yeah.
Here's my philosophy on that. I like to just come to my sessions in a good mood.
Okay.
So whatever gets me in a good mood that day. So a lot of the times it'll be the same music I study to. A lot of it will be nostalgic throwbacks from the early 2000s or even the 90s for me.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah.
Is that something that's changed for you? Did you kind of rely on rage and aggression more early in your training career? Or?
100%. It was a teenage angst.
That's something that I want to dabble into in my off season. I think like I'm just too deep into prep now, and I need that amp up in any way I can with regards to like pre-workout music, stuff like that. But I really want to like get my shit under control in my off season and like bring it down to like, you know, when I watch your videos, like just the focus that I can see you have and just a calmness, you know, something that I see in Jeff Alberts, right? Like where everything's just, it's internalized. There's focus, there's intent with everything you're doing, but you don't see it, right? And I think I don't know,
it doesn't
there's
look
something cool about that to me. It looks cool. Even when you're deadlifting, right? You're pulling 600 off the floor, but you're like zen.
The focus is internal. It's on the movement. It's not like on what's going on around you, or you know. Exactly. I've kind of shifted a little bit towards that myself. Did it coming out of your prep this year? Did you notice? Because I'm assuming you were a little more raged last prep, quote unquote. Did you
notice angry last prep, Dan? Did you
notice when your season was over, you didn't have that massive drop in motivation post contest?
100%. Yeah, it was a lot smoother.
I noticed the same exact thing. Like
way smoother. This prep was making boys the whole time.
I feel like just listening to you two say that, I am gonna crash and burn so hard after this. Like, man, I'm like deadlifting and squatting with like Disturbed and friggin' other screaming music on, and like I'm moving some good loads around, but I feel like my CNS is just like redlining every single workout.
See, I still pick my spots with that though. I don't know, Brian, do you ever once in a while or
do you ever just poke the bear once in a while and just get angry?
Like if I'm doing a top set of squat, like I need something at least to get me a little bit going.
I think the more amped I want to get, the calmer I put the music on.
Damn.
Interesting.
It's weird.
Could you send when we're done here in our group chat on Instagram, can you send like maybe your top 5, top 10 songs?
Send your Spotify of the 2020.
No, I'm not being a jerk. Like I'm genuinely curious because I want to like this weekend, for example, like when I train, I want to put some of your songs on and just see if I can like can feel it out. You know what I mean? I have a few slow tempos, but like, so please send me some music. I'm genuinely
for the listeners. We all know what we're talking about. I don't think we even clarified. Brian is very well known for listening to like legit slow jams, just like the calmest, most serene music. Yeah. And just crushing it while doing that. Where like, I mean, what did I post in my story last night? It was like Korn and Disturbed. And I was like pissed off throwing stuff around my garage.
That's right. Yeah.
So, but
All
See,
right.
the funny thing is, even when I listen to like the rage field music, I like sometimes will even like be like kind of hearing it and paying attention to it before I start my set. But by the time I get midway through my set, I don't
Yeah,
even
you
know
black
what's
out.
going on in my ears. Like I'm
Oh,
just
yeah.
like
When I'm
Yeah.
squatting, I play like, so I play Down with the Sickness by Disturbed. Like if you watch like every squat or deadlift video, that's basically what you're going to hear. And the first like 10 seconds of me getting under the bar and like setting my feet, I'm with the music. And then just like Dan said, as soon as I start squatting, like the world, like I don't hear anything. And then I rack it. And then I'm like, oh yeah, now we're back.
so you might do better you might do better than you think with Brian's music choice then.
You never know. You never know. Maybe I'll
Yeah,
get
with my
another rep.
I try to prioritize staying present, because if I get too amped up, I'll start dive bombing all my squats. I'll start throwing down, and then I just lose. I'm not as grounded anymore in the work that I'm doing. Like if I did all my isolations, it probably would just revert back to how I used to do them, just throwing them around, just tacking them on at the end of a session.
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay, let's transition to this past season. So you did 2 shows, qualified for, well, I guess, did you need to qualify for Worlds or could you go?
Yeah, you have to get top 5 in the open.
Okay.
Yeah, and then
so what place did you come in the first one?
I took my class, the lightweight class at the INBF Battle for Mayhem. It's usually the Muscle Mayhem, but they merged shows.
Okay.
And then everything got all weird. But
touch on how long you prepped too. Yes. Because I mean that was a very extended period of time because of the situation.
That was a long time ago. Okay, so I started prep December 19th, 2020. It was originally planned for 30 to 34 weeks, because we wanted to compete in mid-July at the Mayhem.
Yep.
But as we were prepping, Mayhem got moved from July to end of October, so October 30th. So we shifted the timeline. It gave me time to get leaner. It was already a kind of rushed timeline with the original date, so honestly, it didn't matter too much to me. We slowed things down. We had a 3-week diet break in between. But yeah, after 40 weeks or so, we finally made it to the stage. I went from 178 pounds at the start of prep to, I believe for my first show, I was 151 on stage. And then 4 weeks later, qualified for Worlds, came in. I hit a low of 143 pounds coming into Worlds. And then as we fed back up, I went back up to around 146 to 148 pounds. Yeah.
Were you happy with the look?
I'm 5'8"-ish. I was happy with my look for Mayhem. I knew I wasn't coming in at my 100% leanness, which was perfectly fine with me. It was just a show to qualify for Worlds.
Yeah.
I was really happy with how my quads looked. Like everything looked full. Upper body was still really full as well. And then I believe the 4 weeks after that, that's where things got a little tricky. Because obviously I was going to make weight for bantams. It's just under 150 pounds. But that was right around when my squat started dropping off. And when you're in a home gym, you don't have a leg press, a hack squat. You don't have machines that you could sub out squat with.
Yeah.
So I was still doing safety squat bar. And we just had to drop back the intensity quite a bit, just because I was losing more fat in my hamstrings, my quads, calves, like behind the knee.
You don't get that balance out of the hole. Every squat becomes a pause squat.
Yeah, there was a screenshot that I took during a squat video. My sleeves were just bunched up. Like there was it was just.
if you watch, it's funny you say that. I one of my videos I just posted, I noticed that as well. And like so I have like SBD knee sleeves, and they're like good quality sleeves. And in the off season, like I've got to reef them on. And right now they slide up like almost past my knee. And I'm like, these are doing nothing right now except just giving me mental support more than anything.
Yeah, they're just knee warmers.
Yeah.
And I was training at like 4 or 5 in the morning, because I would get hungry at 8 p.m., go to sleep, and then wake up, get the training just to curb the hunger for a few hours. And it was cold as hell in the garage. So every time I just pulled the sleeves on, they would just go on without any effort.
Yeah. Yeah. I can speak to cold garages right now.
That's the one thing. I'm glad I'm out of prep now, because it's like it's cold as shit in my garage.
I have 2 heaters running.
Yeah.
Yep. Same here.
It only does so much, you know.
Yeah.
It was -15 yesterday morning when I was working out.
Ooh, that's right. You're in Canada. I can't even pretend that like it's cold in California.
Yeah.
I started cracking a door from my basement into it and taking one of those big box fans and blowing it into the garage.
Oh my God. Yeah. And being now sub 160, I'm
Yeah,
fucking chilly. It's cold.
Did you insulate your garage yet, Leroy?
It's insulated, but like
it is insulated.
It's so
but still it's Europe.
It's Canada.
It's Canada, and it's like 15-foot ceilings. Like I got a space heater, and like the heat rises. And you just, once you get going, it's not bad. But the first like 5 or 10 minutes of training, it's just like, fuck.
All the barbells and the dumbbell handles are cold as hell too, and you can't really.
Yeah.
About that
Oh
either.
yeah, I have to wear gloves now most of the time. Like like my prime handles and stuff, because they're like rubber coated, I can get through. But yeah, like any metal bars, like I have to wear gloves.
They're cold.
Yeah.
It's funny, we all know this. We all know those exact things.
Yeah. Okay,
you could
so
see my breath while I was squatting last night.
Yeah, it's a good time. So did Worlds, now you've transitioned out of prep. You're feeling good now, feeling pretty much normal.
Yeah, so I'm like 99% normal. My hunger cues are back. Libido is there some days, I guess. But here's the thing though, that tanks like pretty early in prep before things even get hard. So I'm expecting it to be back to normal for another few months maybe.
Yeah.
Same with me, man.
Yeah, but everything else perfectly normal. But hey, the lower the libido is, the more focused I am on training these
like
days.
distracted, man.
It's one way of looking
That's
at
what
it.
I noticed.
I'm like, I don't even want it back.
Yeah. Like the training focus is just second to none right now. It's crazy.
Yeah. So what's the goal now? I know you've mentioned before on social media and stuff that you're taking another extended time off. So what is your timeline? What's your goal? What's the plan? What do you want?
Another 5-year off season.
Wow, 5 years. So how old will you be when you step on stage again then?
Oh, fuck, 28. Why'd you have to ask that?
I'm 28.
Don't say that's old.
I'm 28
Don't say that's
now,
old.
so.
Hold on.
That's scary. That's almost my 30s. That's crazy. I just feel like I turned 20.
So 5 years, that's, even from bodybuilding standards, like, 2 to 3 seems to be like what a lot of people are like considering a long time away, and you're tacking on 2 more years. So what's your thought process behind that?
I just feel like now I'm training a little bit more intelligently. So I feel like there's a lot to milk out there. And being married to squat, bench, and deadlift for so long, and then finally breaking away from that, not feeling that much emotional attachment to those lifts, I'm able to kind of address those weaknesses in a way that matches my intention.
Okay.
I guess because last offseason I said I wanted to bring up my chest, but I started doing competition style bench press. So max arch, max grip. So obviously that kind of didn't align with my goals.
Yep.
But now I feel like it's finally aligned to a point where I can milk out a lot of growth within these next 5 years.
Yep. Is there anything like you're probably going to say the cliche, everything needs to come up, but is there anything that like you really want to, put that effort into?
My chest, first priority. Hamstrings, because I saw my side poses this past season, not the prettiest on the lower body.
Yep.
Calves, everyone can use more calves in natural bodybuilding.
This is true.
Yes, sir. And then my back for sure.
Yeah.
It definitely was a strong point this past season, but I think there's a lot of room for improvement there as well.
Will you be training at home for 5 years?
Yes. Maybe not the whole 5 years, because I do plan on applying to nursing school eventually.
Yep.
So there will most likely be time away from the home gym and time in like the school gym or a commercial gym. So yeah, but most of it should be in the home gym.
So with I don't know what we caught live and what we didn't, but with your training at home, so say for example you want to bring up your hamstrings, you're obviously limited equipment wise. What is your thought process that you're like, okay, for the next 5 years, say 70% of that time you're training at home with, you have a good amount of equipment, but it's no commercial gym. So what is your thought process behind like, okay, I need to bring my hamstrings up, but I only have equipment A, B, C?
Just refining the basics.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of people overlook. They look at the fancy equipment they're looking at like all these fancy exercises, strength curves. It's like all I have I just need a hip hinge and I need a knee flexion movement. Yeah. And
even
then if I
even for you, you don't even have like an actual leg curl machine. You have like a plate loaded end of the bench setup.
Yeah.
So if you can bring your hamstrings up with that stuff, I think anybody listening that's worried about making progress with lack of certain pieces of equipment or whatever can shut up, because
yeah.
Brian, we'll have to show you how to do like
a seated, isn't that bad.
Yeah.
To be honest,
Brian, I'll have to show you after this how I do a seated leg curl on my cable with my cable tower.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because I've found a good groove. There's a good attachment. Yeah. So we'll talk.
Dan is the king of rigging things up for sure.
Yeah, no, I've seen the videos.
Meathead engineer.
Now, with that being said, I've also observed your training that you've applied some principles from like N1 and stuff like that. So it would be probably not fair to us to say like just the basics, because you're doing like press arounds and stuff, right? So can you kind of briefly touch on that, or like, other movements that you intend to sprinkle in to bring up other areas?
Yeah. So I said on the Natty Boys podcast how I prefer to just keep things simple for the most part and just rinse and repeat on the fundamentals. But I do believe applying muscle biomechanics to your training can be beneficial as long as you have the foundation set already.
Sure.
And
you've got the foundation now that you've met the prerequisite that you can get into the weeds and in some areas.
Just barely. I would say just barely.
I wouldn't say that. Come on, give yourself some credit, man.
I came out of the season, I would say, without any glaring weak points. Obviously, there are weak points, but they weren't so bad to the point where it took away from the entire physique. So I think now I can start kind of targeting specific areas I want.
Yep. I feel like you're in a similar position to kind of what I did this off season, where I was like, okay, how do I hit my lat? Right. Okay. So I've always done rows and pull downs, but like, what could I do differently? And like, I've done that single arm pull down and single arm row for like 100 weeks. And like my back has grown. Right. But I feel like, kind of like you just said, like you're just able to sprinkle that stuff in a little bit, but the bulk of it is still going to be the bread and butter. I know what works. I saw you do a chest press with like your feet up and like just a very controlled movement. Whereas like before you had that dramatic arch, you did a wide grip. So the basic principle is there, but you're just like adding that little bit refinement that, over the next 4 or 5 years will add up to those changes. Right.
Yep. 100%.
Is there anything you've done that you're completely ditching at all?
Shit. Barbell bench.
Barbell completely, or the way you did it before?
Completely. Just barbell bench completely.
Okay.
During prep, I'd used a multi-grip bar, which was a lot better, but I still prefer a movement like dumbbell chest press where I can converge at the top. Barbell bench didn't do it for me, and I kind of just forced myself on it for years.
Yeah.
I honestly couldn't feel my pecs working at all during that movement, but I just kept saying, it'll work out. But that's just insanity if you keep doing the same movement, knowing that it's not going to produce the results that you want.
Bench to me is kind of like what sumo deadlifts are for you. Like just like for me, I don't know. I just love it. And like, I remember when I hit like 3 plates, like I thought I was the king of the world, right? Like it's just that intrinsic.
That's what matters, though. Yeah. That you can enjoy it first, and then whatever is optimal on paper comes after.
Yeah, for sure. Is there any last minute questions, guys? We got a couple minutes before we are going to get timed out here. Is there anything you got to finish?
I'd love to bring up, so if we're off like the training topics and everything, so let's talk about mid prep. You got spotted by Dr. Mike Israel, kind of showcased you a little bit. Let's talk about what was that like? I'm sure you got about 10,000 natty or not comments. Did you? Let's see that, because I mean, he was absolutely right. Like, you are a prime example of what a lightweight natural competitor can look like when they're shredded. Like, you look massive in your photos, but like you said, you were 130s 140s on stage, so there's a huge discrepancy in what you see visually and what the scale tells you. But talk about that experience a little bit.
So shout out to
Brian's still juicy now.
Shout out to Mike. He's always been showing me love since 2019. I was like peak bulk. I was near 200 pounds, just fat as shit. But yeah, he's just always like reposted me, just showed me a lot of love. Yeah, the comment section on his posts though, they're hilarious. Very flattering.
Yeah. That's what you have to do, right? You take it for
views. That's
the
the
biggest
dream as a
compliment.
natural competitor.
Yeah.
Who lives for 8-10 plus years to look undeniably natural. Like I don't ever want someone to look at it and be like, that guy's definitely natural.
Yeah, he is for sure
Without
not taking anything.
Natural. Yeah. But yeah, my following doubled in that time. I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool.
That's the secret.
Yeah.
That's the secret. Get a shout out from Dr. Mike.
Yeah. I still treat my my Instagram as a training log though. So
yeah,
anyone who cares, I appreciate it.
I love in your bio. I just noticed it when I messaged you today. It's like, no, I don't coach or whatever it says.
Yeah. So I added my height and then I added the no, I don't coach because those were the two most common questions I got during prep.
Was that a prep thing that you added that? Because like I don't, my human tolerance is really low, so I just need to put it in the bio.
Yeah. No, even after I added my height to my bio, I kept getting, how tall are you? What's your height? I was like, I just was like, read my bio.
Refer to bio.
Refer to bio. At my bio.
Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious.
I love it.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. I think this was a good chat.
Thank you for having me.
You know, for us, obviously, and then for the listeners. And I think we kicked off 2022 Natty News Daily on a high note. So thank you again for coming on, dude.
Thank you for having me.
For
Appreciate
those that want to observe the training log, where do they find you?
At Giraffe Bra on Instagram.
Awesome. We will save the story behind that name maybe for another day.
Yes, sir.
All right, people, if you guys enjoyed the episode, let us know. Give us a like. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at natty_news_daily. And we'll see you guys in the next one.